This is Coach Sharon, and today we'll talk about how the Bazi elements will interact with each other. So you may have seen the Bazi foundation of the 5 elements, and you have a little bit of basic understanding of the Chinese metaphysics. So there were 5 elements that we learned, and a yin and a yang, right, for each of the elements. And now we will look at more closely the interactions, how these elements can interact potentially with each other. All right. And your day master element, that's very important, from a simplistic point of view. Each of us has a dominant day master element. So if you look at your chart, there may be 4 pillars, 8 characters, but there's a dominant day master. And that might shape your character and your behaviors. So for people with, after calculation with the software, young water, this is what we call the big water or young water day master element. So if you think of young water, what comes to mind? Big ocean, rivers, something big, something moving, something with a lot of energy and flow, and a little bit unpredictable, the waves of the sea, right, flowing into different areas. So there's movement, there's fluidity, there's agility. So such people are usually very flexible. With many ideas, sometimes going here, sometimes going there, but sometimes a little bit aimless or spontaneous in the moment. All right, and sometimes they may not have a final destination that's very clear. Okay, so lack of structure also sometimes can be the criticism. All right, so there are good and bad strengths and weaknesses of each of these elements as a day master. So imagine you're such a person, and I had a client that is the young water, right, as his day master. Okay, so he displays many of the behaviors of this, and his character, is very open. He's very innovative, creative, out of the box. But sometimes doesn't really have an output that is very focused. Sometimes lacks a bit of structure, and sometimes doesn't really give you what you want from him, right? In a corporate setting, at least. Okay. So it's interesting when you then have an interaction, maybe at the workplace or with your partner, romantic partner or whatever, or friend, someone that has a different day element from you. Okay, so imagine this guy, right? If he has someone as his boss, okay? So the boss has a different day master element. Clearly, it is different. The boss can be, and he had 2 bosses, right? So we also see the transition and the different interactions play out. So he has a young earth, a big earth, kind of the mountain, the stable mountain boss, who is very stable and very experienced, kind of person. Okay, and then he had a change in boss, right? And the new manager was a lady and more of the yin earth element, so the soil, right? And you can see very different characteristics of these 2 bosses. The young earth is big, maybe more stable, but kind of bigger picture, perhaps. Yeah, and maybe also a little bit slower to move. So the pace of this person, the temperament as well, right, tends to be more stable and calm. But when it comes to the soil also has different characteristics. So perhaps this person is more detailed, and also more nurturing, but also can be quite hiding a lot of things and wanting a lot of things. Because if we're the soil, we want many nutrients. We want to have many things in us. Soil is very complex, and sometimes a lot of things are inside, right? So it gets complicated, and this person might also, want more and more, to kind of a little bit like a hoarder. Some people say. So it can also manifest as a weakness, right? Hoarding things, wanting lots of things, everything, and it gets a bit messy, right? So and can be a bit more impatient, right, compared to the big mountains. Okay, so then you see the impact of the interaction. When the earth interacts with the earth has a controlling interaction with the water. When the water reaches the damp, it is controlled. The flow stops, yeah, like the reservoir, the damp. When the water hits the soil, it is becoming muddy, right? So sometimes the flow is obstructed. The river cannot overflow its banks, for example. Yeah, that is the interaction of the natural interaction in nature. You can see that, right? How the earth and the water interact. So the earth has a controlling characteristic over the water. And depends on how it is expressed. It can be good in a way that when the water is all over the place, the earth comes and gives it some guardrail, some guidance, right? Some kind of a control that helps it to calm down. It can be good in that sense. But also, in the other sense, it can become muddy water, muddy soil, and we don't want that. The water element does not like a muddy soil. Okay, so that can manifest as being very sticky, becoming like, oh, you're controlling me, and I don't feel good. I don't feel that I can flow wherever I want. There's so many restrictions, and you keep coming at me, right? You keep controlling me. I don't feel good, right? So it manifested in different ways, right? And you can see that in the interactions at the workplace or even in other relationships. So what is the point of this, right? The awareness of your own day master, your weaknesses, your strength, how it influences your behaviors and how you show up. Okay, and then you can decide what to do. And you have a boss, you have a manager, you have a coworker, how their energy, right, shows up, how they show up, because they have that element, and how your interactions are with each other. Some things to look out for, right? And some things just to understand. Okay, that is why I feel uncomfortable. Okay, I may feel a bit restricted, but is that good or bad? And how do I want to navigate this? How do I want to manage my boss? Maybe, right? Now I understand more the characteristics, and then how do I want to navigate? So there's a choice. And with the awareness, it helps you understand things a bit better and not be so reactive, right? You're not so defensive, or your emotions don't get the better of you. Okay, so that is one example of how it manifests. And the next example, we see the day master element of the wood, right? So the wood has two, yang and yin, and the big tree, the young wood, the jiamu, right? Tall trees, this is the young element, the big wood that we call it. Okay, it manifests as tall trees. So the behavior of the person, tall, always looking for growth, growing higher and higher, right? And very stable roots, strong, can be stubborn, right? And also, having a strong sense of self, kind of a big tree, stability, right? And maybe supporting other people, right? So it can be like a senior guy at the office, and always looking to support his staff, to help other people. The wood is a kind element as well. So you have a lot of kindness, and maybe a patience to support, and always investing in growth, self-growth, growth of the people around him or her, right? So that is the tree. And then the yin wood, the flowers, the shrubs, the creepers, the small plants, that you see here. So very different, these two. One is strong and tall, stable, maybe a bit stubborn. One is flexible and soft and adaptable, right? So you can also see the characteristics that manifest in the behaviors of the person. So if you want someone that is very flexible in the company, can navigate changes, is very open-minded and can find a way out, always resourceful, right? Maybe the yin element is slightly more flexible, yes? But both of them invest in self-growth and are usually kind and, relatively, I would say, supportive type of people, yeah? Okay, and the interaction is very interesting. So if you're a creeper, a small plant, you might want to hang on to a big tree for support, right? You see the creepers sometimes latching onto the trees and climbing and all that, being around the big tree. So this is, if you need help, you're not strong at the workplace, you want to find a strong mentor or sponsor, right? A strong mentor who can guide you, a strong sponsor who can support you, and give you that kind of shade, right? The tree gives you the shade and the support that you need, kind of the safety as well, so you feel safe. Yeah, so the big tree and the small creepers. And I have had an example where the yin wood is always looking for the big tree, right? And they do well together. The yin wood helps the tree be a bit more flexible and a bit more advice on sometimes how to go soft, how to use soft skills, how to do things in a flexible way as well. So they complement each other, and they're the same element as well. Very interesting. All right, and that's two examples that I'm sharing today. Let me know what else you want to see, what questions you have in the chat, and okay, maybe subscribe to follow for the other videos. Thank you.